Luke went from being libeled in Disney's The Last Jedi as a defeated hermit to being lionized as a Jedi in his prime in Disney Plus's The Book of Boba Fett Episode 6 called From the Desert Comes a Stranger. My friends, I felt when I was watching it like a kid in a hot toy store. I had a mile-wide smile that was slowly engraving my face with a permagrin. You know what? That's fine by me. Welcome, Slayer Nation. It's George Molo, and I hope you're doing great today. What a hell of a show. We went from hope to humiliation to finally honoring Skywalker. At long last, Disney finally delivered the spirit of Luke we should have seen in the sequel trilogy.
He is so significantly important to this next film. You have no idea.
Well, that's good to hear.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
From the Desert Comes a Stranger made me feel like I was 12 again, sitting in the cinema seats watching Return of the Jedi with my old friend Luke. For every original trilogy fan, this was a phenomenal standout hit. For everyone who was there to see the bounty hunter with the jetpack, Disney did him a disservice and dealt a dead man's hand to Boba Fett. It's truly disgraceful. The episode was co-written by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. They left behind all the shameful takes and bad airs from Robert Rodriguez. Filoni also directed the show. He layered in a good balance of nostalgia and engaged the audience with an evocative narrative. And did I tell you, Luke looks amazing. The CGI celebrates his character instead of serving as a distraction. Yet, and there's always that yet, I feel frustrated in spite of how great it was that in the last two episodes, the lead protagonist does not have a single line. Hell, he wasn't even in episode 5. I mean, what are we calling this show right now? The Book of Boba Who? If I had to give it a rating, for Luke, Grogu, Ahsoka, and the gang, it's a solid 10. For Boba Fett, it's a -2. But now, let's jump into the review. From the Desert Comes a Stranger opens on the outskirts of Tatooine's Mos Pelgo, now called Freetown, with a wide shot of the moisture evaporator. You see the little blades whirling in the wind, framing a showdown between Timothy Oliphant's Cobb Vanth and the spice-running Pike Syndicate. Vanth deals out death to the gang and dumps their drugs in the desert. Dave Filoni imitated George Lucas's cinematography style, giving us all a little bit of that original sizzle, some of that spice from the trilogy. It was beautiful. It had this epic kind of grand intimacy to it. You could feel that grimy, gritty sand between your toes and the blaster fire whiz by your ears. We go from Tatooine to space, and Din Djarin in his Naboo starfighter as he exits hyperspace and enters the atmosphere of an unnamed planet. He's navigating the lush mountains of this green oasis as he's being guided in by none other than R2-D2 into the landing pad. When I saw R2, I flipped. When I heard him beep, bop, boop, I almost jumped out of my chair, and I felt just like Mando did when he said,
"Hello, friend."
As the Mandalorian is sitting there waiting for Grogu to give him his gift, we can see all around him there's an army of androids. They're slowly building the future of the Jedi. A humble hut or possibly a temple where Luke will one day teach his future students. R2 goes into a deep hibernation mode, which irritates Din Djarin, and that takes us to a forest where we see Grogu and his Master Jedi both meditating. The alluring, fertile scenery is only matched by the luscious sounds of the trees swinging in the wind and the subtle mechanics of the working droids. These are simple pleasures to delight the senses. Beautiful. In a meadow, Grogu breaks from his meditation as he sees a frog hop by, and he levitates the amphibian, and just as he's about to swallow him whole for a scrumptious midday snack, his master opens his eyes and tells him to drop it. It's like he's instructing his student not to be distracted, and then he gives him an example. Luke shuts his eyes, raises his black-clad leather right hand, and levitates an entire flotilla of frogs all around, showing Grogu the power of a focused mind using the Force. Grogu is an absolute awe. Amazing. The next scene is the exact polar opposite of The Last Jedi Skywalker. It's endearing, emotionally positive, embodying all of the grace and how Luke engages with a potential student, exemplifying all the hope that he radiates with each action. While they're walking in the Force, Luke, using the Force, leapfrogs Baby Grogu a few steps ahead of him, and he starts sharing with the child just how much he reminds him of his former teacher, Master Yoda, and he imparts a few words of his teacher's wisdom.
Size matters not.
Luke looks absolutely amazing. He is so believable and realistic. This is not the staged and stiff-mouthed Skywalker from the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. This is a believable simulacrum. I mean, I felt that it was Mark Hamill in his prime, like he had found the fountain of youth and the bastard didn't share it with us. My only nitpick here would be the voice. Every so often, I'm like, it doesn't sound like him. And as I discovered doing research, Hamill didn't record the dialogue. Not actually. They used this software called a Respeecher, I believe. And they went to the archive of all the auto recordings that Hamill's done for the series, and they stitched them together with this new material. Amazing what technology can do. Beautiful. Luke starts working with Grogu to bring his memories to the surface, and it delivers a set of scenes that I never thought we'd get to see. We see the live-action execution of Order 66 from Grogu's perspective, Anakin's will being enacted by his furious 501st clone troopers as they lay waste to 3 Jedi protecting a Padawan child. Intense. Back at the temple, Tin pulls his blaster as he's caught off guard and caught by surprise by suddenly appearing Ahsoka Tano. He shares with Lady Tano that he's there to check on the child and hand him a gift of Beskar, which is the right of every Mandalorian foundling. She, of course, says, you can check on him, but know that there will be consequences. Grogu hasn't completely settled in. He's still very deeply attached to Din Djarin, and that his engagement with him will unsettle him. Din insists. She takes him to a clearing where you can see off in the distance Grogu under a tree training with Luke. Beautiful scene. The next one, though, is heartbreaking as Din Djarin relents and he follows Lady Tano's advice. He hands her the gift of Beskar, and as he bids her farewell, you can see the pain. Even though he's under the helmet, the actor was radiating this just feeling of loss, but duty to do what's best for the child. He gets back in his Naboo starfighter and heads back to Tatooine. And then one more punch to the gut that you can feel all the way in your spine. You see Grogu as he watches the Mandalorian ship, because this is a new ship. This isn't the Razor Crest. He can feel him. He sees his Mandalorian father flying by. He's just reaching out to him. Wow. Then we have a resoundingly successful set of callbacks to Empire Strikes Back. While they train, you can see him running and jumping and flipping, and he climbs up a tree to show the future Padawan the valley below. And for him to take in the beauty of the power of the united force. I love the scene. Stunning. Now, he starts showing Grogu how to train by standing on one leg in the same way that he once stood on one hand, balancing Yoda on his foot when he was on Dagobah. These scenes are spiced with just the perfect amount of callbacks to Empire and A New Hope. Luke ignites his lightsaber and goes through a set of forms as Baby Grogu watches on. It's beautiful. He then pulls out a marksman's training remote, one that was similar to the one Obi-Wan Kenobi used when he was training Luke and his reflexes on the Millennium Falcon. And just like Luke, Grogu jumped when he got zapped in his side. He spends the day in the river dodging and leaping the blaster strikes from the training remote. And all of a sudden, we see Ahsoka Tano appear. She shares with Luke how impressed she is with Grogu's training. Humbly, Luke tells her that it really doesn't have anything to do with him. It's more like Grogu is remembering his original learning. When she hands him the gift of Beskar from Mando, He shares his concerns with her that perhaps the child isn't really committed to being a Jedi. She tells him how much he reminds her of Anakin and how similar he is to his father, and that he should answer his doubts by following his instincts. Those are her last words before she bids him goodbye. Then we go back to Tatooine, where we see Din Djarin landing in Daimyo Fett's fortress palace. He arrives right when Fennec Shand is giving a briefing to Boba Fett, the squad of mod teens, and Black Chrysanthemum. We can see in the background it's the mayor's major domo. There's a holographic table where she's pointing out everywhere where the Pike Syndicate is gathering its men. And now that Din's arrived, she says we have all the experienced muscle we need. We're just lacking one thing: numbers to match theirs. Din tells her, no worries, I got it covered. He gets back in his ship and heads back to Freetown. On his way there, he circles around a sand crawler where he sees that huge crate dragon skull on top of it. Jawas are jumping up and down. It's the one he helped slay. He lands in Freetown, and once he gets past the dim-witted Deputy Sheriff Scott, played by J.J. Darsh now, he's greeted by none other than Cobb Vanth. They go inside the saloon for a sit-down. Mando lays his cards on the table, says, hey, we got to deal with the Pike Syndicate, and I need your people to fight. They've already been battle-tested, as we saw when they took down the Crate Dragon. Cobb's like, no, we're done with all that. My people don't want to do anything to do with fighting. Though we're having hard economic times, Mando's like, hey, you're going to make a lot of money. He's like, nope, not going to do it. Besides, we're square, we're even, we owe you nothing. Mando finally breaks down and says, it's difficult to ask for a favor, but I got it. At that point, Cobb's like, let me see what I can do. He walks Mando outside to his ship. We see Mando take off, and off in the distance, we see this lone, solitary figure dressed in a hat and a long coat. As Cobb's keeping an eye on him, he turns to the bartender and he says, we want to call a town meeting with all of the men and women who can fight. He's like, no problem. Now, clear the streets. He tells his deputy to get back inside, and slowly we see this figure from the desert approaching the center of town. It started to feel like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, Sergio Leone's Western classic. The only thing that was missing was the music and the whistling. You know, I can't whistle, but you get my meaning. It's like it was beautiful. The dust blowing, the trench coat flapping, and who was it? It was the most ruthless and evil bounty hunter in the galaxy. Not Boba Fett. It was the blue-collared Cad Bane. It was voiced by Corey Burton. He shows up, and he thinks Vanth is working for Boba Fett. He says, look, we're going to pay you whatever your boss Fett is paying you. Just mind your own business and let us do our gig. Vanth's having none of it, and from the corner of his eye, he sees his deputy slowly coming outside. Bane tells him that, you should have kept your armor, and reminds him that your boss, Boba Fett, he's a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire. As the deputy approaches, he starts fiddling with his firearm and tries to outdraw the quickest draw in the universe. Cad Bane drops the deputy right in the dirt of his new grave and drops Vanth right where he stands. He tells the entire town the Pike Syndicate owns Tatooine. And if you stay out of our business, there'll be no trouble at all. We return to Mos Espa, where we see the two Pike Syndicate members walk into the sanctuary cantina, alerting Garsa Wisp, played by Jennifer Beals. She's worried when she sees the syndicate members walk in and sit down. After a few minutes, they leave a canto of explosives and explode the entire bar. We don't know if Bill's character lived or not. That is the Pike Syndicate sending a strong message. We own Tatooine. Stay out of our way. And finally, the Book of Boba Fett delivered that feel of The Sopranos, that feel of Narcos, mixed with Sergio Leone's classic Western style. Exquisite. It's just one episode before the finale. It's a little late. From there, we head back to the unnamed planet and Luke inside his hut. He lays out this Beskar chainmail shirt before Grogu, and in his right hand he holds Master Yoda's lightsaber. He offers the child a simple choice. Choose the chainmail, and I'll return you back to Din Djarin, and you can be his Mandalorian foundling. Choose the lightsaber, and I'll train you as my Padawan to be a great Jedi one day. And that's where the episode ends. This episode, directed by Filoni, was beautifully made, expertly executed. Even the annoying cliffhanger is classic Star Wars. To finally get to meet the real Master Jedi Luke Skywalker was a thrill. But I was angry that it came at the cost of Boba Fett. The narrative journey for the episode came at the price of disgracing Temuera Morrison and Ming-Na Wen. Their characters were used as puppets. It's like, come here, we're going to pay you to act as a distraction while we lay the groundwork for Ahsoka's new series and a possible future Skywalker show. I didn't like that. But if you're a fan of Star Wars and you haven't seen any of the episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, you must watch episode 6, at the least. It is a standout hit. Now, smash that like button, hit subscribe, share with your family, friends, and coworkers, and leave your thoughts about the video in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be updated every time we release a new video. And remember, never bow down, never bend the knee. Firmly defy and step up, stand tall, and get busy living your best life now. Always forward.
Not sent your master died to my blade! It's the warm Sith army! Anger is not the way of the Jedi!
Good, bro?
Ouch!
I hope you got that.
Get that on camera!